There we go. Okay, where's the audio? This is gonna kill me. Okay, let's see. Settings, audio. Yes, we know microphone access is on. What is going on? Alright, apparently the audio is on, but I can't hear it on my end, so that's stupid. Very stupid. Let's see. New headset. But hey, I mean, as long as it's picking up on that, on your end, hopefully. Shouldn't matter, it'll just be mute on my end. So just gonna check the sound settings real quick. I mean, OBS says it's picking up sound, so I can't, you know. Let's see. I mean, I could check the stream real quick just to see if it's sounds coming up on my end. Hello? 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 Alright, so I think the sound is coming up, but it's coming up on my desktop, so I guess it's working, so we'll just continue with that. I don't need the sound. God, this new headset is just being the bane of my existence. I'll crank up the volume since I can, since it won't distract me now. Okay, so, at least until some, you know, I won't be able to hear anyone else on the voice chat, so, but that should be fine. Okay, so, hello anyone who's tuning in, or, I guess, anyone who's watching the recording of this later. Welcome to the Manga Reading Club for this month, and we are going through this month's lineup of manga, including, so we're starting off with Shishunki Renaissance David-kun. What else we got? Sanda, Bibliomania, and Dorohedoro. So yeah, these are the 4 manga in question. Would have been really nice for the audio to work. I'm noticing my voice isn't coming up on Discord either, which is not a good sign. It's never good, but I assume OBS is working. OBS seems to thing, and I think I heard myself on the webpage just now. So fingers crossed. Just gonna double check once more. Once more. Yeah, okay, yeah. The sound's going through. Okay. Alright, so it's a good thing I'm hosting by myself this session as well. Next session we will have Dokes to join us. That's something I'm really looking forward to. We have a bunch of nominations coming this month. We'll probably have a look at the end of the stream. As for this month though, it was a fairly interesting mix. I think three out of the four was, so quite dark themes. Nothing too explicit. Half the time, I would say. Um, I mean, definitely Dorohedoro is a bit more gory than the others, but Bibliomania is pretty dark in its storytelling, and Sanda has mature themes that can be a bit overwhelming for some readers, that's for sure. Shishunki Renaissance David Kun is possibly the most light of the bunch this month. Absolutely, it was absolutely hilarious. I was originally reading this when it was first came out with Jump years ago, and I personally thought it got axed after chapter 15. So when I reopened it, put this up for nomination, only to find out it went on for another 20 chapters after that, was great. I mean, I can see the reason why it was axed, and I think in terms of delivery, it could, it could do a lot. It could have done a lot more to do it. But what it did in terms of its overall gimmick and what it was trying to do, it basically excelled at that. And, you have to give it the credit where it deserves. It is so I think the other month we were going through a manga called Arte. And it was a manga that pretty much the theme of the manga was about art. Now, the problem was when we were looking into Arte, was the fact that it's, despite it being a manga about an artist in Venice, not just Venice, I guess in Florence, but in Renaissance Italy is what I'm trying to say. It's just the art seemed subpar when it came to the backgrounds, when it came to the highlighting the details, even when it came to the historical backdrop, and just like in terms of highlighting that point of history and providing the exposition, it wasn't so much. It just was lackluster. There wasn't not enough information, not enough of a showcase. It was extremely character driven, and even in terms of character driving, it wasn't so great in my opinion. It was just very just it was woman in the industry overcoming the odds with hard work, and that's basically it. That's the entirety of Arte. Shishunki Renaissance is the complete and utter opposite, where it focuses a lot on the art, and it has zero usage of it in terms of storytelling. It's just a gimmick. It's there for visual sense, but the fact that it drops references to the arts, even for for the comedic delivery and so on, is absolutely phenomenal. I absolutely loved it, and we're just going to take a look at it right now. So the synopsis of this manga basically just goes: David is your typical Japanese high school student, except for one little thing. He looks exactly like Michelangelo's famous statue. Like David the Thinker, I think it was supposed to be. Yeah, it was absolutely fun. Let's take a look at Manga Dex real quick and see how it looks there. Shishunki Renaissance is a tricky word for me to spell. Okay, so at least we got the first few chapters on Manga Dex, so I mean it's on Manga Plus, so yeah. Let's see if I can. Okay, it's gonna let me zoom in at least. So yeah, so it's a basic gag series. A series with the overall theme just being it's a statue. It's Michelangelo's David, and is what it does right is in terms of the fact that it's really hard formulate the words right now, but what I'm trying to tell you is that the you know a manga, it is living up to what it's about in terms of art delivery. And the artist behind this, by the way, is phenomenal. This is some, I assume this was coming out weekly, and we had an artist coming up with like basically a high level sketches of a copious amount of detail. Oh, especially on David, 24/7 is utterly crazy. The amount of I can only assume how much work went into the amount of shading and so on. And I do like some of the sense of humor, and this is where we're gonna go. This is where it kind of makes or breaks a lot of people. He kind of there's a recurring gag where he kind of curses in Italian, and it's sort of the overall humor of it is basically 10-year-old goofy 10-year-old humor. And I think a lot of people, especially for people like me who's been reading manga for a long time, it's sort of can be a bit tiresome. Is a good way of putting it. It could. There's. Yeah. But honestly, though, I think it's just the amount of creativity and the way it ties into real life artistic masterpieces is just absolutely phenomenal, and it's the main draw point of this manga. I think, despite the humor being a bit childish and goofy in terms of dude wants to see girls want to see a girl panties, or like urination jokes and so on like that. It gets a bit repetitive, but at least they do a decent job of, especially for how long it ran as well. 35 chapters, good part of good majority of the year right there. As you can see here, for example, we have sort of the love interest heroine, and her name is Venus, as you already know, especially after the painting. And there is and you're going to see a lot of posing in this manga, because obviously these characters are referencing the art pieces behind them. And I find it so entertaining. So, for example, we have this one here. They don't really do the references here because they assume because it's pretty straightforward. I believe they do the referencing for the major, what's the word I'm thinking of? Punchlines, for the big punchlines, like the big page artistic drop pieces, with the drop. And the art style is cute. It's kind of funny and endearing. I do love this, the concept of this photorealistic David Kun, kind of like shuffling about in this sort of kawaii sort of high school art style that you're very much used to. It's this sort of dissonance between the two that kind of just adds to the humor a bit even more. I'm going to do a lot of ums at the moment. David is pretty much like an immature boy. He's tried to impress this girl in many different ways, and he's kind of and he puts his basically he ends up putting his foot in his mouth. Is the best way of putting it. And the whole comedy style is basically based off of that for a good part of the manga. Then we get introduced to other characters and other wacky situations, which also have big artistic references that tie to it. Ultimately, though, at the end of the day, it is a high school comedy gag manga. So whether it's basically that. It's a high school comedy gag manga with a heavy amount of artistic references in it. So and you have this character called Mannequin Piece, which is basically, I think it's supposed to be like a Cupid fountain statue sort of reference. He's supposed to be sort of this Jotaro Kujo sort of reference, like cool stoic character, but it's obviously just the character. It's just the statue that's constantly urinating. Is the joke, and you get the occasional urination jokes here. See, it's funny for kids, but for a more mature audience, it could be perceived as silly, and yeah, and I get it because it's a jump manga. It's primarily made for kids, and I do appreciate the fact that the author, the mangaka, has tried to tie in comedy and learning together, and I think it kind of generates a sort of interest in the art. So these are like famous poses of thing. There is, it's the first chapter really is off the rails in terms of trying to push the boundaries in terms of silly humor. We have like basically a character who has just gone nude, and we have like the Jump logo, pirate logo covering thing, and he basically gets it's not found out, but caught nude. He basically gets caught nude by the love interest, and we have this sort of, it turns into like a comedic punchline where we have the famous painting of the creation of Adam here. Obviously it's an abridged version with the characters tied to it. It's just absolutely lovely done, and you can see the artist, the referencing that goes into it, not just only the name of the art piece, but also the artist behind it as well, which I think is, it's absolutely great. And yeah, the humor, that's the real make or break point. And I only bring this up because this is a comedy gag manga, and humor is pretty much going to be 80 to 90% of the substance of this manga. In terms of everything else, though, when we talk about like other components of storytelling and so on, we have to consider the fact that it is a gag manga. So there's not going to be a lot of storytelling and character development. Usually in these kinds of series, the characters regress into sort of one-dimensional looping occurrence, but I think there is a decent amount of growth in terms of some side characters. I feel like David kind of becomes slightly more mature, but it's very hard to notice at times, and he often defaults to his sort of immature behavior throughout the manga. It does showcase his capacity to be more than he is, but it's ultimately, I believe this manga was cut short. The facial expressions in this manga in terms of comedy delivery is absolutely phenomenal. I love the hyper-realistic faces for David-kun and some other characters that get introduced later on. Obviously, we do have some characters with the kawaii anime faces. The usual thing. So, but it's that sort of dissonance between that adds to the sort of funniness of the situation, that adds to the humor. So, for example, and the humor gets better over time. I feel like in the first chapter, it really went out of hand in terms of the kind of comedy it was kind of going for. It really felt like it was trying to hit the readers with its possible worst, but
you have to have...
Okay, and it was trying to hit the readers with the absolute worst it can do, and from that point onwards, it's it just stopped there. It just kind of like, it was more acceptable humor. So we have the character now. He's been trying to hold in going to the toilet for ages, and there's kind of, he's taking hits, and then he's kind of like pushing himself to the limit, scores the goal, and he blasts himself, and then we have the famous painting reference of Michelangelo's The Last Judgment. So right now there's a lot of references to Michelangelo, but later on in the series we do get other artists showcased as well. So yeah, and it kind and obviously the paint it's an abridged version which kind of ties into the kind of punchline that it's going for, and it's so well done. You can't and it just kind of makes up for any issues that appear that show themselves later on. Um, yeah, obviously we kind of break down to piss jokes, but it's sort of but it's sort of balances out with the sort of camaraderie and stuff. It's not sort of at the character's expense. And it's mostly like, for example, he's pissing on him just to make it seem like, oh, it's just this statue that pissed on him. It's not because he peed his own pants. That sort of thing to save him, And it's this sort of funny camaraderie in this sort of ridiculous situation is. I personally find it kind of quite appealing. It's a sort of comedic art style, comedic style that you see in a lot of popular comedy series. So yeah. So throughout the entirety of the manga, you basically it's planting David into different situations in basic high school fashion. The art is the art style and the artistic referencing tools that are used in this is sort of just it's just to exemplify the sort of silly situation they're in, and there is a fair amount of again, it goes back to the childish humor. So, for example, he's kind of pining for Venus here, and he's kind of having these illicit thoughts, and he's talking about ecchi and stuff like that. In terms of ecchi content, though, it's not overbearing compared to like other series out there. It's fairly quite tame in retrospect, and and it's sort of like the characters, silly. It's like the mind of a high school boy kind of just us taking things out of proportion and having these illicit thoughts. He's not the kind of pervert. David is definitely not the kind of pervert to act on this stuff, but it does showcase the inner turmoil. So you can see him just like emotionally breaking down right now as he's having these things about possibly doing a nude painting, and these thoughts kind of just escalating from here and there. And obviously this doesn't actually happen in terms of thing. This is just this character's hyper imagination just going wild. And yeah, that's basically it. There is some very when you get to when you get to later chapters in the series, they really go balls deep into the other Jump series referencing in terms of comedic things. I think there's one entire chapter just involving a sphinx, involving just flat out like Gintama level of referencing throughout the series. Throughout that chapter. Of other Jump series, we had like One Piece and a bunch of others I can't really remember off the top of my head, that sort of thing. But it's quite funny. Sometimes the art references are quite small and subtle, and you may miss them. They're not always with the big embroidery borders around them. For example, we have a sort of comedic joke here where kind of David gets the shocking news that they're doing etching, not etchy, basically, is what he was thinking, and he basically collapses, and it turns into a recreation of Michelangelo's the Pieta. Okay, so that's basically all three chapters that we can see on this site, but I'm hoping you guys get like a good idea of what kind of this manga is about. There's really not much to talk about with this manga because it is just fundamentally it's a gag series. It does do one of those cop-out endings where where you have the character basically making forwardness in drive and character, only for it to be turned out it was a dream, and it kind of just goes back to that gag formula that we see, but obviously it just the series ends on that note there. It's not really the best endings, but yeah. Oh, it's. Oh, hey, Rulene. Sorry, I didn't notice you there. I got a new headset. Just let me know if it's a bit quiet or anything like that. I can't hear the desktop audio, but I assume the audio is coming through on that end. If you can't hear me, just I guess message me. Otherwise. Oh, I sound like I'm inside a can? Oh no. Oh no. Okay. Okay, I guess we're gonna spend. So let's try and figure out what is going on then. How about now? Does that help a little bit? I thought a tiny bit maybe. Okay, I really need to work out the equalizer settings on this, but it seemed fine when I was doing a D&D session. Either that or just my D&D party has just terrible headsets. That's that's a bit annoying. Can we possibly maybe balanced? You're not distorted, okay. But the difference from the last mic is night and day. Okay, but I mean, I'm just trying to get like quite like better clarity in terms of the audio quality. How about this? How about this saying? If this helps, maybe. I don't know. This one? This one right now, or the one before? I'm gonna keep talking then in the meantime. But yeah. This one, I think. Okay. All right, excellent. Okay, thank you. Okay, so a lot better now. Yeah, so that's basically David Kun. Yeah, I just went through. Luckily, the software for the headset has a bunch of different preset stuff. There seems to be one for I can't even fucking speak. Desk stand or whatever. So it seems to be the right one. Yeah. So as you can see here, if we dial back a bit, we do get some other artistic references other than Michelangelo. So we got Auguste Rodin's The Thinker. I thought Michelangelo did the Thinker statue, to be fair. So this is it's part of the learning experience, and that's why I like this manga so much. Definitely for me though, it does fall flat at times, but I think what it tries to do, it does really well, and it does give me a sort of interest in classic Renaissance artwork, and definitely, I would definitely give it like a solid 8 out of 10. I would not give it any higher, only because it definitely, it definitely had a lot of potential, but its life was cut short. So let's take a look at some reviews for it. I'll be very surprised if it gets like okay. So this one, so a lot of people rating it 7 out of 10. 6,000 and 4,000 popularity for a manga that got axed a few years ago, back before COVID. It did pretty well. It ran basically for almost a year. Yeah, and I think it did a good job with what it had, with the small time it had. I don't really know the reasons why it got axed, but maybe it was sales and stuff, or maybe it just didn't engage with the audiences. And I think it might be as I said before, that childish humor maybe put off a lot of people in the wider audience as well. And especially when you try to do something educational for kids, then it kind of backfires as well. So it's not always the best. It's not always the best thing. So from a marketing standpoint, it might not have been the best thing out there. Just gotta look at the author and see if they're done. So it's Yushin Kuroki, and they did something called Sento Susume. Okay. So it doesn't. He did do. I'm guessing Yushin is a male name. He did do the art and story, which, bravo. He was able to do some like hyper realistic artwork in tandem with that, and I am assuming he was doing that weekly on the weekly schedule as well, which is brutal. So, anyways, let's take a look at the reviews. The distribution seems very lopsided. 5 recommended. 0 mixed feelings and 0 not recommended. Especially given the popularity. I mean, the amount of users actually rating this manga it's a paltry 2,000. Especially if we were to compare to another manga like Arte. Yeah, well, so let's just. So this one is rated higher. It's got a whole 1,000 more, but the popularity. So I guess 2,000 is pretty good. But yeah, you can see it's more well received. And I think Shishunki is the antithesis of Arte, but it just never got the chance to shine. So, anyways, so let's take a look at this one. So I saw this manga with a friend, and both of us saw okay, just say read, man. Saw this manga, and as a Jew, I was excited for a manga with King David as its main character. Oh, I didn't know what I got myself into. I don't. Okay, it's real. This guy's really drawing straws with, but you do you in terms of drawing connection. This manga is incredible. The art is amazing, and the use of poses and designs from famous art pieces is brilliant. The fact that they live in a universe where there is a baby wearing a Jotaro hat while pissing everywhere is hilarious. The use of famous characters like King David, Venus, Mona Lisa, and others is just smart. He's not really the best at grammar. The show is also a giant joke in a good way. Okay. One thing I hate about mass media in general is the fact that everyone refers to other forms of media as a show. Like, people were talking about K-pop Demon Hunters, and people said, "Oh, I have to watch that show. I watched that. It was a movie, for fuck's sake." And now we're getting this with manga. I saw this. This is a great show. This is a manga. You read it, for fuck's sake. Anyways, the characters are also fun, all with unique personalities and funny gangs. Overall, the manga is great. Just read it. This is not a request. Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely feel like it's a bit polarizing. Obviously, it means more to this person, especially with the personal connections that they drew at the beginning. So this person gave it a 10 out of 10. It's called Terrible Person 12. So they go, I love this manga. First of all, this review will be treating it like a gag manga because it is a gag manga. Already objective. I quite like that respect. If compared to other manga titles, it would probably be considered lower to some extent. But for a gag manga, it is perfection. If you don't like gag manga, don't read it. If you do, here's why you should. Honestly, pretty on point so far. The first talking about the story. It's simple. The boy who looks like a statue from a Renaissance art wants to date the girl he likes. We see them being friends and the friend group interacting with each other throughout the series. It really only becomes plot driven near the end of the series, probably to wrap things up. It's all written really well. All the comedy is really absurd and character based, which we will get to soon. So it's often really great. So I definitely agree with everything that he said so far. My only problem with the plot-driven stuff that he was talking about, it just kind of basically got chalked up to it was a dream sort of situation, and that it kind of, I get that they want to keep it in the perpetual endless gags, leave it at the endless gag state that they wanted to do, that they initially started on, but it kind of leaves a sort of sourness in one's mouth for an ending, which is a bit of which I think is the biggest drawback of this manga. The art is absolutely gorgeous. The thing with this manga is that it will for the gags have these panels and poses meant to imitate famous pieces of art. The series will also have great art style changes, which go to show that just how good of an artist Yushin Kuroki is. I didn't even mention the great ecchi scenes of the female cast, which are really solid. Okay, so there are ecchi scenes, but I don't think they're overly explicitly ecchi. I think there's a sort of suggestive posing here and there, and I think there was a couple of oppai jokes here and there, but it's a bit weirdly worded. The great ecchi scenes of the female cast sounds really creepy. The characters are really fun. David's overactive brain leading to misunderstandings makes his comedy really relatable to teens, and to the main message of the series is how confusing growing up can be sometimes. That is pretty good, and yeah, it is something I did mention before about how this manga, I definitely feels like it's more catered to the younger audience rather than something like One Piece or Bleach, where it's kind of even a mature audience, and it's a double-edged sword. It is the double-edged sword that ultimately kills this manga, I think, where it's very catered towards a younger audience, and with a combination with an educational gimmick with it doesn't, it's not going to carry in sales, and I think that's the reason why it got axed at 35 chapters. The rest of the cast is equally colourful and fun. Working off of each other makes you want to read more about them. Absolutely, I utterly agree. There are some really fun characters in there. I think the weakest character, in my opinion, is possibly the character Narcissus. Sorry, and it's sort of like stereotypical handsome prince character. And it's relative. I mean, even for who I consider as the weakest character of the lot, it's still pretty okay. Like, if everyone has like a solid 8 or above score, then Narcissus is probably maybe between a 6 or a 7, which is still overly positive. Yeah, Narcissus. Yeah. Yeah, just like the thing. There's like a lot of Renaissance artistry referencing throughout this manga. Like, his mother is the statue of Athena, and some other things throughout the series and stuff like that. So moving on, most reviewers like to say that enjoyment isn't a factor. Those people are idiots, because it is the greatest factor of them all. It's at least the most important for gag manga. The comedy here is over the top and absurd. It's always insane and fun. What more do you want? Overall, the artwork would be enough to have anybody read this. It's great looking, but to add on to the positives is the characters are fun and hilarious. 10 out of 10. So it is a bit polarizing in terms of score, but throughout the entire review, he is like, this person has been completely objective and well thought out, and I do agree with about 90% of what they're saying. Do I think it's a 10 out of 10? No, I think it's definitely a solid 8. I think there are things that pull it back, which could have made it great, but it just did everything else so phenomenally. And an 8 score, I think, is a really good score for a manga. I think it definitely deserves to be 8 or above, and I am a bit saddened. I mean, obviously, you know, when you're competing against other manga out there, it's okay. Can I add to the block list? Does that work? I don't know. Yeah, if it was, you know, if it was a higher score, I would have been, you know, happier with a much higher score. But I know my anime list is sort of like a battleground for top spots, so I can understand the position it's in, especially for a manga that's not as popular as others, to lose out. People do get way too competitive when it comes to the rankings in manga. I mean, just look at the anime rating list with Fullmetal Alchemist. You know, absolutely brutal. This person rates it 9 out of 10 here, but I won't bother. Feel free to check them out later. I'll leave it on the screen for you guys to pause and read if you can. No longer first. Yeah, who is first, by the way? I totally forgot. Was it like... Oh, it is Freyren. Okay. I'm quite surprised Freyren... Oh, Chainsaw Man and is second as well. Okay, bloody hell. That's crazy. Gintama still has 2 in the top 10, which I fucking love. Hunter x Hunter as well, and the original, I forgot the name of this manga now. I mean anime. Oh, I just know it by its Japanese title all the time, but I always forget the name of it. It's, oh my god. Legend of the Galactic Heroes, there we go. Thank you. Oh yeah, how's the music, by the way? Is it too loud or too quiet? Let me know so I can adjust it later. Yeah, but see, yeah, Gintama is like, there's 4 entries in the top 25. So that's all that matters. Lovely, thank you. I can't hear it because I'm wearing the headset, so I can only assume it's doing okay. Because desktop audio is not coming from the headset for some reason. I don't know, the settings are absolutely weird. But this is actually way better for me. I think it's more ideal for me because I'm able to focus a bit better. I get distracted by the music all the time. Okay, so that's basically it. So that was Shishunki Renaissance David Kun, what I consider the anti-Venom of Arte. Completely both artistic themes completely opposite each other in terms of delivery of art pieces versus character development and storytelling. Completely the antithesis of each other. It's actually quite hilarious. The more you think about it, it's quite funny. All right, so yeah, that's David Kun. Definitely 8 out of 10. How will you know when you're rickrolling the audience? Well, I just hope it's not on the playlist because Rickroll is not DMCA free, so I would get a copyright strike if that were the case. Okay, so my little sister made me cheesecake, so I'm gonna try a bite of it real quick. Yeah, it's quite good. She did a good job. She didn't put enough sugar in the cream though. Alright, so we'll move on to the next manga, which is Sanda. Now, this is the third manga written by... Oh god, I'm absolutely terrible with names, but... Paru, thank you, Paru, yeah. Yeah, Itagaki Paru, which also famously is the child of Itagaki something else. I forgot the name. Who is the author behind Baki? Now, this is the third manga we are this is the third work of Paru that we are covering in the Manga Reading Club. We have covered Buta Buta, or Drip Drip, and Beastars. I think it was about more than a year ago now. Sorry, Butter Butter, or Drip Drip, yeah. There was also that one Santa. Did we do that? Or makes it two tiles? Oh yeah, that makes it two tiles. So I guess the Paru has a Santa fetish, it sounds like. Okay, so overall, this is I guess we should go over the synopsis real quick. So, Sanda, story starts with Sanda, a second-year middle school student getting attacked with a kitchen knife by his classmate, Fuyumura. While Sanda couldn't make sense of the situation at first, he gradually came to believe that Fuyumura's actions were just means of mean acts stemming off from the latter having a peculiar puberty phase. That was all actually a misunderstanding. And Fuyumura is seriously questioning if Sanda is actually a descendant of a certain family. So, surprise, surprise, I think this manga pretty much reveals everything. Sanda can transform into Santa. And it's this whole superpower, it's a series based around this whole superpower mechanic where he's able to turn into Santa. And the entire... The main plot, the main mystery of this manga is introduced of trying to find this missing girl. And it did... And... Yeah, I'll go over the details in terms of the storytelling in a bit. What I would want to say though, I did have a good time reading it. I wouldn't say it was the best reading session for me, but it was quite easy to binge. I think it only took me like a couple of days to read 130 something chapters. But it's what can I say? What can I say about this manga? It's nice. It's got that Beastars sort of storytelling with the sort of strange characters. Paru has always been the kind of author to sort of showcase all sorts of characters and their walks of life, and no matter how weird they seem, they're not inherently bad per se. I think is the kind of storytelling that Paru is. It's kind of like deception of appearances is what they're going with. Is the main thing here, and it's sort of I think definitely throughout the manga it's the kind of, and the main theme of this manga is the conflict between living as a child versus trying to live as an adult. And we do see that sort of conflict not with just the child characters, but also with the adult characters who are to some extremes trying to relive their youth or maintain their youth in some ways. Fuyumura is definitely an interesting character. They have I think Paru definitely did a good job showcasing Fuyumura's unique body type, which is not unique to real life girls, but definitely unique in terms of storytelling that showcased in manga. I think it's quite interesting. I don't think they have ever said. I think they do say that Fuyumura is female, but I'm pretty sure the underlying thing is that they are non-binary. But I could be wrong. I might be misremembering some facts here and there. But yeah, so anyways, the story goes, Fuyumura tries to coax Sanda to become Santa, and, ultimately stabs him to get red on him so he could transform into Santa, because she is searching for her best friend who suddenly disappeared one day, and she thought that Santa would be the one to help find her. So yeah, and ultimately I think it's in this sort of futuristic dystopian world where they purposely stop children from aging, and the child population is very small as well. Anyway, so now we have Sanda transforming into an old man, and it's sort of the dynamic of a child living in an adult's body that constantly going back in between, even though he's sometimes treated as an adult, where he should be, where he acts like a child, and so forth. And he gets thrown into these sort of situations and so on. And Fuyumura definitely is the pinnacle, the apex of character growth within this manga. So yeah, it's basically throughout the first, I think, about third of the chapters that came out so far, it's the mystery of trying to find the missing classmate, and solving the mystery of why they were missing and so on like that. In terms of that storyline, it pretty much gets solved within the first third of the manga released. Sorry for spoilers. It's pretty tame. It does open the door to quite interesting character dynamic, and it does lead to even more growth for Fuyumura, which is absolutely great. I think Sanda has a lot of growth as well, being thrown into this sort of dark situation, and especially with introduction of a new cast in the second half of the series. Yeah, it's kind of, he definitely tries to become the reluctant leader sort of type. Definitely, I feel like this manga, even now, should have ended 60 chapters ago. I don't think it needed to run as long as it did. I think the main mystery should have been the main focus, and I think it could have just done, it could have just focused on that main mystery for a bit longer. But it just kind of resolves itself, I think personally not to any effort of the actual characters. They're just kind of the mystery kind of just appears at the doorstep and solves itself right there, and it kind of ruins the mystery behind it. Fuyumura is a very interesting character. She has the sort of, there's a lot of what's the one I'm trying to go, foreshadowing with this character, and we see the reasons why they sort of interact, act the way they do as well, which makes it even more interesting in looking back on it now. See, going over the first couple of chapters. The art style is, as usual, it's Beastar's art style. It's quite fun. For me, it is sometimes a little jarring, only because of the fact that I'm very much used to the anthropomorphic animals that Paru draws, and this is kind of, it's sort of an adjustment that, oh damn, Paru's actually drawing human beings, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's fun. It tries to, and I do like the interpretation of Santa in this manga, where it's sort of Santa is this mysterious being, and it's sort of, there's a lot of, the logic that we see from day to day with Santa is not necessarily the same. So in this case, because of the fact that Santa goes through chimneys, he you say Bota Bota wasn't people. Bota Bota was very short-lived, so in comparison, so it's not really the same. Butter was a very short manga. I think Paru's art style will always be associated with anthropomorphic furries in my mind. So anyways, as I was saying, with because Santa could go through chimneys, he's basically fireproof. And there's also some other weird abilities that he gets that they showcase later on. As like with Beastars, we have the main character Santa, who has a bunch of roommates like Lugosi, who is shown briefly here and there, and you think they would have more of a thing to do, but actually no, they don't really do that much. I don't know the manga of MC walking menacingly at a dude in bed while pouring water out of a kettle is a visual that lives in my head rent free. Is that Bota Bota again? Because again, I just can't remember anything other than like maybe like the last few chapters with that guy. Chapter 1. Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, I only remember like the last few chapters when she was when we had that short arc with that one scumbag guy at the very end. But yeah, it's basically that. But it's it's a very fun manga. It's very interesting. We do get introduced to, I think, the most complex character in this entire series, is with exceptional levels of growth as well. I think actually even more so than Fuyumura. And that would be, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, he gets sleds out of his feet as well because Santa, right? It's so funny. It's like the Japanese interpretation of Santa always seems goofy. It's like, this is like, especially when it comes, especially from the perspective of the Western audience, who grew up watching like Christmas movies and have a comprehensive knowledge of the extent of Santa's abilities and power scaling. I think this character, the principal, is possibly one of the most complex characters throughout the entire series, and he is sort of the antithesis of the main character, where he is a sort of a youthful appearing character with who's trying to maintain youth as much as possible, in terms of he does like an abhorrent amount of surgeries on himself to make him him appear younger or to increase his longevity. Is it Christmas reading time already? Yes, it is. We're reading Santa. Hey, Silver Stream. And turn him into a mech or whatever. Yeah, he basically is a cyborg. He's practically I think the joke is that, he basically does so much surgery on himself that he's basically a cyborg. The only reminder that he's old is his old hands. And I think that's a very clever touch. That sort of thing. And I'll tell you why, and this is kind of like something that ties to me personally, and it's kind of like, we're going to get a bit deep with this, but my grandmother has dementia, and one thing I noticed about her a lot, especially when you leave her to herself, is she kind of is always surprised, and she looks at her own hands. First thing she sees all the time is she looks at her own hands. And I think she's always just kind of like surprised by it's the main reminder of how old she is, of her age. And it kind of, I feel like it's sort of, I'm not sure if that's Paru's intention, but it's something that resonates with me very much so, especially with like elderly characters. So yeah, it's it's very interesting. There is some sort of dystopian sort of setting where I think there's children are very sparse or in between, and so they are forced to stop aging, so they are incapable of sleep or any other, or crying or emotional growth, because growth means that they become adults. I'm a bit confused as to the reasoning why things are. I think they just wanted to achieve I think it's just the arbitrary way of creating immortality. I think it is what they're going for, or something like that. But yeah, it's a very interesting manga. It's got there's some fun fight scenes in here. Not the most visually stunning fight scenes, but I think they have a lot of them have a lot of emotional weight to them. Paru is definitely a character, definitely an author that excels in showcasing emotional complexity and, just sort of like showcasing the freaks of the outsiders, so to speak, of society. So yeah, absolutely, yeah, definitely, it's definitely a good manga, and I would give this manga possibly a 7.5 out of 10. It's a funny concept. I remember most from the anime where he transforms after being stabbed and made me think of Super Sentai immediately. Yeah, it's definitely something like that. I think there's some very fun, interesting characters. There's a couple of adult characters that get introduced later on in the series, which I quite like, which are possibly my favorite. Fuyamura is definitely a strong character. I feel like this character here kind of just relegates himself to the support, very much so to the supporting role, where his growth is kind of small, or it happens a lot off screen, or it's just like this sort of gradual moving sun sort of growth, where before you realize that he's already grown a bunch, you don't really see it happen. That sort of thing. There are some interesting arcs. There are some characters that just pop up. I don't think they might come back, but from what I can tell so far, they haven't came back yet. The second half of the manga kind of takes a weird turn. It turns into a sort of, without spoiling too much, turns into a sort of Avengers-like situation. It just imagine like Nick Fury going around and so on like that. Just imagine that sort of thing. But it feels like a manga that should have ended like around 40 or 50 chapters. I think it really went hard on the lore. It's now, I think Paru's really wants to invest into the lore and world building. And I'm worried that we're going to get the same problems that we had with Beastars, where there was an exceptional amount of world building and we end with no clear answers in sight. And that's one of my biggest concerns with this manga as well. And I feel like we should have ended it when the first major mystery was resolved and we had this huge character conflict, and it just ended it there. And it feels like we're on a spin-off season 2 sort of situation now, which to me, it feels unnecessary. It's great for the terms of characters, and it does answer a lot of questions in terms of world building and lore. I get that, but the sort of arcs they're going for is just, it doesn't have that sort of impact it originally had at the beginning. The mystery is gone, and now it's just sort of turned into this battle shonen. It just kind of dumbs itself down a bit, which I find a bit, a bit disheartening. It does, but it's just, it sort of deviates from what it originally was. At some point, you see every twist, yeah. And they do have fun with Santa's abilities and stuff like that. Definitely, when you get introduced to other characters and other sort of abilities, it definitely feels like Sanda's character is, fully flushed in terms of gear and tools. Very much one-sided, where every character sort of has like one ability. Sanda has like, oh, I don't know, like goddamn like 5 or 6 or something like that. It's you know, in terms of balancing, he just basically becomes Goku in his own manga. But, you know, there's more. It's still an ongoing series. I think there's like 139 chapters out right now, so that is subject to change. Yeah, it becomes an open book than an actual manga. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's the case, and there is some mystery elements in terms of world building, but they do get answered quite quickly. There is a sort of underlying mystery in terms of the actual lore and the origin of Santa, I guess, is the big thing. But it's never really questioned within the manga itself, so I doubt it's going to be actually answered in this manga. And it feels just very like confrontational in terms of we're now in event A and responding at least to event B, event C, and event D, and so on. It becomes very sequential. But yeah, I preferred the first 40 chapters where it was these sort of kids navigating in this adult world while trying to rebel against it, and also solve this major mystery that they were searching for this missing girl. And it just kind of, and it is sort of that rebellion, but it just becomes like a battle shonen. And it just, and there is character growth in that sort of thing, but the theme changes entirely. And when the theme changes, the impact is a lot different because of it. Let's take a look at the reviews. So, Sanda. Okay, so there seems to be only one review. The manga is rated pretty low. Even lower than Shishunki Renaissance David-kun, which is absolutely insane. And way less users. I thought it would have a lot more users. Ranked as nearly in the 10,000s. Popularity is much higher though. Almost double of what we saw with Shishunki Renaissance. So there's only one review. This person read about 70 chapters, so basically halfway through. This was done back in Jan, so it was fairly recent. Pretty underrated. Same author as Beastars. Art style is quite beautiful. Story, while lacking substance in some areas, is enjoyable. Comedy is on point. Characters are fun for the most part. I suspect this manga will become more popular as the anime releases. So I guess get on it while it's underground. This is only an enjoyable read if you are struggling to find something to read. For all those people, this should keep you at ease. I will say it is pretty forgetful. At least I wasn't nearly as impacted as I guess the manga hoped to do to the readers. Maybe in the future I'll write this review once I reread it over again, but for now, this is how I feel. I'll give it a go. You never know what might stick with you. So, in all honesty, this doesn't sound like a recommended. It sounds like a mixed feelings review. Characters are fun for the most part. I definitely agree. I think there is a sense of creativity and there is a lot of quite intrigue and development that happens with them. That it's part of the strong point of the series. Storytelling is the weak point, and I've already rather than just repeating myself again, we'll just go on to the art style. Art style is quite beautiful. I quite agree. Paru has an interesting way to drawing people. I don't think she's kind of the best at creating beautiful backgrounds, so to speak, it's very her art style very much focuses on the character's expressions. I don't think she does very well with environments compared to like other series out there. But yeah, but she is. But she does a fantastic job. She also, I think she's one of the things I like about Paru as well is that she's very good at showcasing the many different body types of people, especially with the female anatomy, and you do get like a whole range of different types of people. In this manga, I think I think I don't think there's a lot. I think the only exception I think is just obese characters. I don't think Paru does a lot of obese characters. They call in this manga in particular. I don't think there is any. If I remember, I do recall them being some larger characters in the Beastar manga, but yeah, it's not. But for all we know, it just never had the opportunity or whatever. But it's not even that big of a deal. So yeah, but yeah, it does become pretty forgetful, and that's the point I was making with the entire first half of the mystery. Once you get that certain point, everything feels sort of arbitrary afterwards. So yeah. But you never know. It's subject to change. We're in like a big battle arc at the moment. It really feels like it's dumbed down to like a battle shonen. But yeah, that's just my thought on it. And everyone said, "Oh, it's gonna finish in 5 chapters." Okay, cool. All right. Okay, we were near the end. Almost there. If we waited for another month, we could have possibly read the whole thing. So yeah, actually, yeah. So all my concerns about this manga are probably going to come true. It's Beastars all over again in terms of storytelling. We get introduced to this big confrontational character that gets introduced into third act. Is it a weekly series? I think so, yeah. I believe so. I think we're at chapter 139, so I think before New Year's, I think we might get the final chapter before New Year's. But yeah, that's funny. That is actually funny. Oh my god, we're not gonna get any fucking closure with this manga. Oh my god. We basically got introduced to a third act character, villain, with no proper build up. Again, the final villain of this manga is Melon 2.0. Once again, we are having the exact mirror problems with Beastars. Ooh, do you think it was planned to finish before New Year's? It possibly. It's usually how it goes. You'd be surprised with how much foreplanning goes with a lot of manga. I think sometimes it's just a happy accident. Most of the time, I would say. Hinamatsuri ended on chapter 99 or 100, and the author notes at the end basically said that in Hinamatsuri that it was just totally an accident, and that they said they wanted to end it soon, and it just so happened that it would probably take a number of chapters that it would end at 99 or 100. It was just a happy accident that it would end on that round number. So it depends on how much power the author has in terms of, I want to tell the story, this is how many chapters I need to tell it. I don't think, not a lot of other series out there have that sort of luxury. I don't think Margie's author had that luxury. I think she was given like a sort of ultimatum to finish within the next 50 wrap up the entire story in the next 50 chapters or so. One Piece has entered the chat. Yeah. One Piece has all the power it needs. It's to, Detective Conan, Hajime no Ippo. These sorts of manga feel like an endless horizon, and because of the fact that they have a massive following behind it, they will never be pressured to end. The only pressure they will have to end it is by their own authors who wants to end the nightmare themselves. The question is, are they permitted to end? I think they're permitted to end, and then we're just going to get a Boruto situation. That's what would happen. We'll get the sequel to One Piece, Two Piece, or we get Hajime no Ippo, which is because that was the issue. Yeah, it's ultimately up to the. I feel like, with big successful authors like this, the only thing that's holding them back is their own imagination, because they want to tell a story, and they basically made such a immense story, but they kind of like put themselves in the hole, and now they have to climb their way out. Author was told to keep making more and rage quit. Yeah, you could definitely see Oda for One Piece breaking down mentally and physically because of the pure demand for it. The fact that now the manga has become sort of bi-weekly series is as a result of it, and you can see, if you were to compare the chapters now and the paneling to modern day to like 500 chapters ago, it's a lot more condensed. It feels like we're reading a speed guide to what we were originally reading with One Piece. But yeah. But anyway, Sanda, quite a flawed manga in terms of storytelling. Interesting concept, interesting characters. I'm actually quite surprised the ranking is quite low for it, especially for only 1,000 views for a series which I think a lot of people are quite interested in the anime at the moment. I like how everyone cares for his health right now more than him. Someone has to care about mangas because the industry is brutal. Yeah, absolutely. I think honestly, like, every mangaka should be minimum monthly, in my opinion, or at least like, bi-weekly. At least, I don't think the weekly releases are feasible for anyone. But that's just my thought. That's just my opinion. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is Bibliomania. This one is we're probably going to cover this real quick because it is quite a short manga. Storytelling is it's just like, it's going to be really hard to pin this down. It's okay. Let's start with the synopsis, and hopefully I'll be able to formulate something a bit better. Alice had woken up in room 431 of a mysterious manor. You must not leave this room, warned the serpent, but she paid it no heed, and her body began to rot. Will she be able to escape the cursed manor? So it's basically following this character called Alice as she is making her way out of this mysterious manor, with each room having a residence and the room catering to the resident's desire. And you do get throughout the journey of Alice trying to make it to room 0 through all the other rooms, you do get to delve into the psyche of these different people and their desires, and their basically them running away from the real world, as particularly. There is this big mystery. I think in the first chapter we do see this scene of a monster coming out of this big structure, and it's eating all the people off screen, but we never see this monster in particular. Let's see if Bibliomania is on Manga Dex. Yes, it is. Lovely. This manga was nominated for 2019 Japan Media Festival Awards. Oh, cool. So this manga is a dark seinen. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard because it is a short manga. I won't spoil the twist at the end, but we can talk about the first few rooms, and we can talk about our overall opinion about the ending without mentioning the main twist. I think is what we're gonna go through, what we'll do. So the conversation about this manga is gonna be particularly short. We'll try. If we spoil, so be it. It is a short manga. I don't think it's gonna be possible to talk about without spoiling anyways, but we'll try to keep it minimal. But if we can't, that's fine. Whoever's watching the stream, if you're particularly interested in this manga, I recommend skipping ahead maybe like 20-30 minutes. Maybe we should turn out to be the monster, trust me, bro. So spoilers where the interesting stuff is. Okay, fair enough. Okay, I guess it is going to be spoiler heavy. So, like I said before, if you're watching a recording of the stream, please skip ahead like 20-30 minutes, I think. Yeah. So we do get this whole structure broken out of, and then they do say snake. Yeah. That's interesting. I don't think so. They do a lot of foreshadowing in this manga. I've realized now. We're mentioning spoilers. I was quite okay with the ending. If I were to go over the details real quick, I think I wrote it down in the manga room. I'm gonna read out what I wrote down, and hopefully. Okay. So this is what I wrote down in the Discord server. A short manga with a good mystery. It's not too predictable, but it leaves clues to entice and keep you guessing. Art is the clear strong point of this manga, along with its intense imagery. I think it's a manga that definitely hinges on the type of reader who reads it. For me, I acknowledge that it's great, but I'm not in love with the climax of the story, as I see myself as more of the sort that leans towards happy endings. I do wish we had seen a bit more of the rooms 99 and below. Felt like they were just rushed through for the story. All in all, good read. I highly recommend to anyone for the pure experience alone. Yeah. Yeah, that's a snake. Solid snake? No, unfortunately not solid snake. It's weird mole rat's snake from Kim Possible. He's basically grew 100 times bigger than he was before. And now he's got his own hotel service. But yeah, so it's basically this character Alice. She's quite a mysterious character herself, where her motivations are very unclear. The way she interacts with other people seem quite inhuman, and I do like how she really wants to go outside. Yeah, absolutely. And there is a lot of, and if you're rereading this for the second time, you do see a lot of the foreshadowing, and the clues are there. You don't even have to reread it again because it's such a short manga. You do realize, oh shit, when you get to the end where it turns out she was the big monster all along. you know, that sort of thing. If we skip ahead and see one of the rooms, rereading helps a ton. I don't think it. Well, yeah, I think it would help a lot of people. I definitely comment. Yeah. But yeah, so the premise is basically she has to travel through these rooms. The further she travels from her own room, the further the rot progresses, and it's sort of like she's combating this ever-growing rot while she's exploring these other worlds created by these other people's desires and imaginations. Yeah, so basically to escape she has to travel through all the rooms, so from room 400 to 0. So yeah, she has to, and basically this clearly evil character, Serpent, wants her to fail, and he wants to fill up all 666 rooms because he wants to create, because when that happens, they can begin a big banquet, which obviously means he gets to eat everyone and escape. Is basically what it is. I mean, it was pretty clear on that front. It wasn't too unpredictable. In that sort of thing. I think the big twist, Alice being the monster, was always in the back of everyone's mind, but the fact that it kept you guessing throughout this entire series was it's what was its very strong point, that's for sure. I still think consumption is a big motif in this series. Consumption? I feel like yes for the book, in terms of the books, the book characters, in terms of Serpent and Alice, who are, constantly with the urge to devour basically and consume. I don't see how it ties into people's rooms though, because I feel like the motif for the people who are in the rooms is a sort of escapism, from reality. But yeah, it's but the art, as I mentioned before in that what I wrote down, the art and imagery is absolutely intense. Now, the thing that threw me off at the beginning, and there was this one child in the very beginning that says asks about a snake, and if we were to come to the last chapter here, I have, she does have a sort of snake eyes sort of thing, but oh, I guess that looks like a snake there. I don't know. I mean, I guess that was supposed to be a red herring to make you second guess about if the final monster coming out was Serpent or not. Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely like the consumption of stories and people's stories and lives, experiences and so on. They're both basically the same creatures. The snake guy is just immature compared to Alice. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, just going over the art. The art is absolutely insane. But yeah, it's sort of, like I said before, this manga ends on a sort of, would you say dark note? I don't think it's dark. I don't know, it doesn't feel particularly dark. It It's not even. I wouldn't even call it melancholic or anything. It sort of feels nihilistic. Basically, the story is everyone dies. I don't know if there's like a underlying message to this. Like, is it just like, oh, all stories end? Is that the thing? Everyone has their own story, and all stories end. I don't know. I'm not sure. But it is a very interesting manga, and you know, it's something it's set out to do. It did what it set out to do in the space of 12 chapters, and it's left that much of an impact on me. So I definitely highly recommend this manga to anyone. It's a solid 8 out of 10 for me. I don't think it just goes above and beyond for me, and it's not my cup of tea. But yeah. But yeah, it's quite clever with the foreshadowing, and it's definitely a manga worth reading twice if you want, because the foreshadowing is quite good, and the imagery you really want to give it a second look at as well. Absolutely. Um, which is also a series where knowledge is made physical. Yeah. Uh, I don't know. I wrote more above lol. I'll go back to the idea of consumption as she's absorbed everything, all knowledge. There's just nothing left. Reminds me of the tree of Kai in Kaiba, which is also a series where knowledge is made physical. Something escapism, consumption being parallels. Snake given wishes in exchange for keeping him trapped as he eats. Yeah, it is a very interesting manga. I think it's just again it's just it comes for me it boils down to personal preference. It's just like I'm not in love with this manga. I have a high appreciation for this manga, and I think it's very deserving for an 8 out of 10. But I'm just not in love with this manga. I think we did stream my experience reading this manga, and I thought it was a very good manga, and it was quite enjoyable to a certain extent. It just didn't resonate with me. I didn't feel like it was enjoyable, but I didn't get that sense of fulfillment from a bunch of other enjoyable manga. So there's that. Let's see if it's on. Okay, it's not on my anime list, so let's just take a look at Kitsu, I guess, and see what other people wrote down. Because I did read up in a couple of art forums, and just because of the fact that it's a webcomic, I think it's originally a webcomic, so that's what they wrote down. Do I think it should be on Mal? Yeah, absolutely but I can see the reason why they did it. Hold on. I'll just. Why is Bibliomania not on Mal? Yeah. So I just put in a question, but it seems odd to me since it's not that obscure. Is there some requirement it doesn't meet, or the mods just haven't gone to it yet? The movie adaptation is on Mal. Oh, I forgot there was a movie. As far as I'm aware, the authors of Bibliomania have no professionally published works as of now. Until the author creates a professionally produced work, or Bibliomania is published by an official publisher, it will remain ineligible. Yeah, they're quite strict on that front. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of this rule, but I can understand their logic. yeah, so yeah, basically that's Bibliomania. There's not really any reviews on it, so we'll just take a look at this. So, an allegoric exploration of past trauma with great arc. Oh wow, I think Eric really sums it up actually, of exploration of past trauma, and it does tie in with Alice's character. I think the trauma of never being able to see the world, so she kind of, you know, to combat that trauma, she basically consumes all knowledge of the world until there's no world left. Is an interesting way of putting it. And then we have Harley the Red. So we've got Eric the Red, and then a very quick read with great art and some trippy abstract story worth the time to experience. Absolutely, yeah. Oh, Anilist has a review section? Okay, fair enough. Starless lives up to its title, I guess, Mania. Interesting story with great art. I read it in one sitting and don't regret it one bit. Fuchisa, it is good. You can read it on your day off. Great art, delightful subverting ending, fantastic exploration into the meaningless of everything and how that gives it every meaning. Interesting. It's an interesting thing because a lot of people are getting like many different interpretations of this manga. It just adds to the testament of how well written it is and how, sort of elusive it is as well to the readers. Let's take a look at the Ani list. Bibliomania. Reviews. They seem to be like likes on Kitsu. The tragedy of Alice, princess of a certain island country. Oh, maybe if I click on... Oh, I click on it, I get the full thing. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is massive. Oh, 100 out of 100. Bloody hell. Is there like a TLDR version of this one? Is there a short version of this? No. A conclusion. We'll go for the conclusion of this one. Read it. We don't have time to read it all. We're just gonna go for the ending. We're gonna read the ending. All right. We still have one more manga, then we're gonna hit the 2-hour mark. At this rate. I'm not reading an essay. We can read this one. I'm not reading the other one though. That one is fucking long. Like, I mean, it looks well articulated and it goes into a lot of depth of everything. I think it goes through the entirety of the manga itself. But we'll just go for the second highest one because it's a bit shorter. So, all right, let me just crack my knuckles. Aren't you? I am curious, and I'll do it in my own time, but not on company streaming time. So, Bibliomania is a horror manga by Obaru and Machiro that is about a girl waking up in a strange manner, proceeding to try and find her way out of the manor by trapezing through the 431 rooms to make to room 000, which is where the entrance lies. I wasn't sure really what to expect from this manga, despite the strange beginning of the manga prior to Alice waking up in the manor. It didn't seem a terribly unique premise for a manga. I've always had a negative gut reaction to anything that looks to get by on weirdness alone. A character waking up in a literal white void and then being accosted by this wacky-looking serpent when they tried to leave. I just had a bad feeling it was going to be one of those. Yeah, I same here. Something that's just that's weird just to be weird. I was off the mark. Though, don't get me wrong, Bibliomania is very weird. There is a story, one that doesn't not necessarily want to spoil, at least not outside of spoiler tag anyways. What really sells it, though, is definitely the art. I mean that what got me to read the series in the first place was that cover image of Alice's rotting face rotting. As the serpent explained, if an occupant... I can't. I don't know why. When I start reading online, like my saliva builds up. Okay, as the serpent explained, if an occupant of their room leaves it, their body will start to rot. The more rooms that Alice makes it through, the worse the rotting gets, and later on she rots so badly she barely even resembles a human. But it is just wonderful. I'm a huge fan of body horror. All those pages of Monster, all those pages of Monster Alice were just absolutely great. The rooms themselves and stories of the occupants are pretty good too. And the main thing I like about this manga is definitely Alice and the serpent. The serpent especially grew on me, as it acts as a Virgil to Alice's Dante as she proceeds. Okay, this person already gets an upvote for the DMC reference right there. As she proceeds, he's throughout the rooms and provides his commentary on the various occupants she encounters. It has no twist that the serpent was hiding something big from Alice. After all, who would ever trust a talking serpent in a suit? Especially after mentioning that the amount of guests he needs to start the party just happens to be 666. That's not to say there isn't anything unsettling about Alice as well. There's just something off about her and the way she acts. That's without even her mentioning that we also keep cutting to before when Alice entered the book. It's her wandering around the world, which seems to be already completely destroyed. Warning, massive series spoilers ahead. We've already done that, so it's fine. What a nice surprise this manga ended up being. It really was just in it for the art. My primary recommendation with this manga is if you do read it, maybe read it a second time. Did you write this review, Rulaine? I wasn't able to read it in the one sitting the first time through, but even then, there was a whole bunch of more details I just completely overlooked because I was just gawking at the art in general. It just barely misses the level of being a new favourite for me. Bibliomania is a 9 out of 10. No, it's not me. I read it in one sitting. Oh yeah, this person is weak. This one's a bit longer. I am impressed with the reviews of I am very impressed with the reviews on AniList though. They are quite elaborate. Not even elaborate. Elaborate's a poor word to use, but they are. Maybe it is elaborate. I don't know. But there's a lot, and they go through a lot. It doesn't follow the usual Mal structure. Used to be a feature on Hummingbird. I know. I still have one of my reviews from a long time ago as well on there. Before the update, I only managed to write one review before it got taken away, but I still keep it as a reminder. It's still on my profile, I think. I forgot for which manga it was actually. Oh, it was quite a short review actually. It's pretty pathetic compared to everyone else's. It was for drifters. I think I wrote it for the anime when I wanted to write for the manga as well. I was very inexperienced back then. Maybe we can bring it back for Emma is running the show. We have requested to bring it back for ages, okay? It's there. It's literally I've spoken to the staff. It's sitting right there. Like that sort of thing, but it's tied to an old system and it's just a mess. Yes, but Josh was in charge way, but no. This was something that was asked after Josh left with Emma as well. everyone in the mod team had like a bunch of requests and stuff that they wanted to see, but ultimately that could not be done because of how the entire site was structured. And it's basically with the way how it is, it's on a point of no return, and that if they were to do something, they would lose a lot of history, I think is the best way of putting it. With it, yeah, I'm willing to help with that effort. I'm sure a lot of people also volunteered as well, but I think Emma and the staff are sticking to their guns. The fact they've been working on something that I'm not allowed to talk about. They prefer to keep quiet, whether it's to their own detriment. It's up to them, but I'm going to respect their wishes in that regard. But yeah, they I don't know. It's difficult because it's a site run by people working on it out of their own pocket in their own time as well. And this is a non-profit site. The fact that we don't run ads on it is a testament to that. Okay, anyways, so I'm just going to skip to the conclusion of this one. With a good story and plot twist, and one of the best artworks I have seen, it captured my heart as one of my favourite mangas to this day. While I wasn't too impressed, although entertained, in my first read, you notice a lot more details and foreshadowing on your second one. Was what we've already mentioned as well. I love how these little things that clicks in our brains is sort of, comes up again. It's really nice. It's nice to be on the same wavelength with someone. I'm not even sure where I found this manga, as there is very little information where it was released and from who. Apparently Oboru and Machiro. However, it is certainly the best hidden gem I have found yet. With a lot of different topics, I think is what they want to say, where I'm sure that I missed a lot. Thank you for your patience, and I hope you enjoyed my review. Okay, yeah, I mean, 100 out of 100 again. And it seems to follow a lot of topics, as mentioned before. I'm just going to highlight them. So we got escapism, the rot, which the longer you go without alcohol or drugs, the more setback and failure you receive when you try to get back into society. So I believe they're trying to say that the rot is like an allegory to addiction or a fear of change. Yeah, that's a good one. I was thinking addiction, and it's sort of the rot is, from what I can tell from how this person's writing. Yeah. But yeah, fear of change is pretty much, but I skimmed it real quick. I think I saw drugs and alcohol. They said fear of change at the start. Yeah, I think I just focused too hard on the drugs and alcohol part. I saw drugs and alcohol, just jumped. Alice and the Serpent. Alice only hatched her little brother due to curiosity. Alice, the scientist. It does seem just escapism is one of the themes. Past trauma that Eric mentions is really on point as well. That is true. I wouldn't know, but that is true. Okay, Biblio is a weird, well-written story about escapism, which intrigues through its horror-esque art style. Bibliomania dives into topics such as the fear of change, escapism, and desire and greed. Disclaimer, this is my first review. English is not my first language. Fair enough. I mean, they did a really good job. Like, I'd be hard-pressed to write anything in a second language. Anyways, okay. Spent a bit of time on that, but yeah, that's Bibliomania. For me, it's an 8 out of 10. But I understand that people want to rate it higher. I think this is one of the things where I kind of go against the crowd on this one. Okay, so the last manga in question is Dorohedoro. This one was the highest voted one. I think a few people in the server actually went out of their way to read this one, which I was happy that they did. So let's just... Oops. So, this isn't our first manga that we read with Hayashida's. This isn't the first one we've read of Hayashida's work in the club. We've covered Die Dark or Grim Dark, but yeah, it's a grim dark comedy is a powerful combination. I mean, the very first panel you see of this manga is this sort of gruesome image of, you know, a lizard, of this lizard man for, you know, putting something in, eating someone. You know, it's quite gruesome imagery to kick off a series straight off the bat, and it has that sense of unique weirdness and grim weirdness, and that has almost become synonymous with this author. She is absolutely fantastic in terms of showcasing like goofy characters within this dark setting, to the point where they are almost adorable, in fact. You know, these, you know, borderline or sometimes even over the top psychopaths seem very charming and likable, and they seem just to be, you know, they seem almost to be purely a product of their environment. Almost like they seem to be like regular people, just a product of their environment. Yeah. So there's the overall synopsis of this manga, which is quite long. But in a city so dismal it's known only as the Hole, a clan of sorcerers have been plucking people off the streets to use as guinea pigs for atrocious experiments in the black arts. In a dark alley, Nikaido found Cayman, a man with a reptile head and a bad case of amnesia. To undo the spell, they're hunting and killing the sorcerers in the Hole, hoping that eventually they'll kill the right one. But when En, the head sorcerer, gets word of a lizard man slaughtering his people, he sends a crew of cleaners into the Hole, igniting a war between two worlds. Their environment is fuck, and so are they. Yeah, pretty much. Let's grab a bite. Yeah, but, you know, it's like these... I love the setting. Well, it's such a fun, unique world. And it's so well established and flushed out. So you have this funny magic world, and they go through the they go quite into detail the mechanics, but there's still like an underlying mystery behind the power of everything and the origin of this magic and so on, which they do go into. And it's one of those few manga where they, with so many, you know, expansions and world building, they actually cover a lot of ground and basis on that. And by the time you get to the end, you feel very much satisfied. Like everything has been cut. I feel like a lot of things got covered. The only thing that people probably want, the only thing that people probably would have wanted is more interactions with certain characters and so on like that. I also like that the world is kind of grimy and something like that. Whatever it is, it's just not clean. Definitely, I think it's definitely sort of dystopian. Definitely, it feels like you're in the plague town. That's for sure. And it fits the setting. The art style really fits, and it really accentuates that sort of griminess and dystopian feel to it. And but the way the characters are drawn and everything, there's a sort of it is called the pit. I think it's called the hole, actually. As built on top of a literal pit. Yeah, there's like a literal pit of like many bodies or something like that. It's crazy. I do like this. It's definitely a unique power mechanic, because I think it's the mechanic is it's not actual like magic with mana and stuff like that. It's black mist that is produced from the sorcerer's body, and each person's black mist has a different property. So everyone's magic is unique in a certain way. So this guy in particular, I think his power is, I'm not quite sure. Oh, it turns someone into a bug. And then you got N, the leader of the sorcerers, who's considered this powerful guy, and his power is just to turn anything into mushrooms, which is absolutely fun and insane. But yeah. But yeah, it's, the overall mystery is quite interesting. To be fair, fungus is the ultimate villain of that kind of environment. Trying to get rid of mold is a nightmare. Yeah, it definitely feels like I would die within a year from the black mold on the walls. That sort of thing. It's a gory manga, especially when you get to the cleaners, where they kind of, because of their power and abilities, the gore really ramps up a bit because they can walk away from like incredible damage. Kaiman, I think, looking at his art style now, he looks a lot more reptilian than he does later in the series. He does look sort of menacing reptilian at the beginning, but then when you get to the midpoint of the series, he becomes more like cartoony Tyrannosaurus shaped reptile, rather than, I don't know what kind of reptile we're going for with this one, but it's more angular. I have a very nice Dorohedoro tapestry, by the way. I can wrap myself in the family. Oh, that's nice. Right, very different. Also, often in a mask which hides it. Yeah. But it's quite fun. It's quite cool, and I do like the exploration of the two different types of worlds and the many different kinds of characters and their sort of stories they have as well. Isn't that a Komodo dragon? Yeah. I would say it's more iguana at the beginning, and then it becomes a Komodo dragon by the end of the series. I think it's the best way of putting it. It is very... he's a lizard. Yeah. Yeah, don't overcomplicate it. Bro's a lizard. That's it. But, yeah, they don't know what he is. But it's really fun. There's a big mystery. The mystery is fun and enticing, and it runs for a good span of the manga. Even when you do get answers, you are left with more questions. And by the time you reach the final conflict, everything it feels like everything is very well rounded off to a certain extent. It's a very fun manga. And I love the art. I love the art style. It's got this sense, the way she draws the sort of menacing glare from menacing glares to cute faces, cute innocent faces is very fun and is very appealing, and it just adds more charm to it overall. It's very gruesome. I mean, the fact that in the second chapter, like, this cute girl, kind of her face gets ripped off. The humor is quite silly in a mature way. It's quite, violent and gory. If you don't really have the stomach for that sort of thing, then it's not really for you. But yeah, it's like really in the second chapter. Chapter 3. Sorry, chapter 3. I didn't realize how fast I was going. But yeah, it's an absolutely fun manga. It's one of my personal favorite mangas ever. My issue with this manga, and I am actually going to do something. I'm going to just make it like a little fake flow chart. So, okay, let me just change the window capture real quick. How come it's not letting me choose the window? Interesting. Window capture maybe, properties. Oh, here we go. MS Paint. Okay. Apparently OBS does not like MS Paint. That's interesting. Huh. That is interesting. Probably the most uncomfortable I've been on one of the arcs, and it's very casual about it. Yeah, it's quite unsettling with some of the stuff that they encounter. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Let me just change back to the manga then. That's interesting. Okay. Let's just cut back to that. All right, so let's just delete that. Oh my god, my eyes! I'm blinded. All right, insert. All right, so we have this. So this box is the entire manga. So can we get a draw? Oh, I thought we could draw on here. Oh, here we go, scribble. All right, so let's say this. So manga kicks off and it's very fun and exciting, and it begins to ramp up. I think, if I remember correctly, within about 60 or so chapters, it does take a dip a bit in terms of the story. I'm not sure. I think it's because it kind of just goes in the perpetual loop where constantly we're referring to this mystery, and it's just like people are trying to find out and stuff like that. So it does take a dip, but then it ramps right back up again, and then you have this fun final arc. Do I think the final arc is the high point of this manga? No, I don't think so. But hold on, let me just move that. Yeah, I know. I can see on OBS, but yeah. Yeah, it's probably not as high as that. It probably goes down. It probably is not as good. But I definitely think the best part, the manga definitely peaked in the first half. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, but that lasted about only like 2 or 3 chapters. And that was more of a climax, part of the climax or anything. Oh, sorry. You meant, oh, yeah. Yeah, that was fun. I think it was just like the whole mystery element. It feels like they prolonged it for too long. I don't know. There's this part within, I would say about on the 60% mark, where it kind of takes a dip and it feels a bit sluggish and repetitive. maybe not repetitive, but oh god, it's really hard to pin it down. It feels long and drawn out. And it feels like you really want the ball to go. There was a point where the humor went away and it became very difficult to read. I think it was that point where the mystery element and the main world building kind of just took a serious turn, and it just lost that fun factor, I think, and it just became more tedious to read. And it wasn't until that was resolved where it started to kick back up a notch again, and we actually climbed up a bit there. So let's take a look at the reviews. Art though is absolutely fun and amazing. The characters are phenomenal, lovable. You know, it's sick and twisted in a fun way. I mean, it's rank 68 and popularity 47. That is exceedingly high. This for, you know. And it's not every day we get a manga where something that's so high in popularity and it's also high in ranked, because sometimes we get differences of opinion in terms of the scaling between the two. Like, usually it's rated really high in popularity, but the ranking isn't as high as that, or one way or the other. But this is like, it's both popular and highly ranked, which is, far and few in between. Okay, there was a point where the humor went away and it became very difficult. The humor was pretty crucial to being able to cope with the series, because the stuff that happens when you take away the funny is horrific. Yeah, I don't know. I think I was just flat out bored. I didn't even find it too horrific. It was gruesome, but I think I was just bored. I got bored. It's just like, oh, come on, let's make it fun again. Why can't you make it fun? It just wasn't as fun. It didn't feel fun. It was just like, oh, it's dark storytelling. I don't know. All right, so because of how many people that have read this and how popular it is, we're going to get a lot of reviews. The devil getting demoted kind of scarred me. Do you have artwork of that? Let's see if I just oh yeah, it does become quite. It does. I do remember it leaned quite a bit into horror in that part. Yeah, it was very spooky. No, it was when he was turned into meat. Oh, okay, turned to meat. Okay, I thought you were talking about like the monster that was being built up around the end. Okay, so let's take a look at the reviews. So the distribution is 56 recommended, 6 mixed feelings, and 3 not recommended. So definitely the 3 not recommended is going to be entertaining as fuck to take a look at. But let's start off with, but then back to, but when the humor was back, it was fine. So it was fine. Yeah, at least look, what I loved about the series as well, it didn't end on a dark note. It could have been like something like Bibliomania, where, like everyone dies or something like that, or like, but it didn't. So I like it more for that. I don't usually bother with reviews. Honestly, it's a pain, but after scribbling down my mixed thoughts on Chainsaw Man, I felt compelled to shout out Dorohedoro. These two share a similar media vibe. I jumped into both early on thanks to recommendations, back when they were still building buzz. But where Chainsaw Man left me baffled by the hype, Dorohedoro hit me with a revelation. Like a revelation. This is a straight up genius literary fantasy manga. What sets it apart is how it's literally insane. On the surface, it's pure chaos. Crocodile-headed amnesiacs, mushroom magic, interdimensional weirdness, but underneath, everything operates by these intricate, consistent rules. As a reader, you have to engage your brain to piece it together. The author does not spoon-feed you or treat you like an idiot. I love that respect for the audience. It's not the kind of story where the world building unfolds through subtle details and implications. Sorry, it's the kind. Sorry, it's meant to be the kind. Rewarding close attention without ever holding your hand. I do agree in that regard. I think the author kind of held the cards too long in the 3/4 mark of the story, and it kind of just like it felt like that Doctor Who joke of like, what's this? I'll explain later, and it just kept repeating that joke. It could be that, I don't know. And the art, oh man, it's a glorious mess. It looks like the creator vomited ink across the page, scratchy, grotesque, overflowing with bizarre anatomy and shadowy details, but that's the brilliance. It doesn't clarify things for you. It forces you to study the panels. You can't just skim, you have to read the visuals like text, lingering on every grotesque flourish and hidden clue. In my opinion, that's how manga should work, demanding active participation from the reader, turning each page into an immersive puzzle rather than the disposable entertainment. The characters are a highlight too. Cayman and Nikaido's dynamic is raw and endearing, the villains are memorably unhinged, and the whole cast feels alive in this gritty, post-apocalyptic hellscape split between sorcerers and the whole's downtrodden. Themes of identity, revenge, and societal divide sneak in amid the gore and humor, but never feel preachy. It's violent, funny, it's profoundly weird, and by the end, it all clicks into something profoundly satisfying. If it clicks, it'll burrow into your skull like one of those devil masks. Highly recommend, and this one's a cult classic for good reason. Honestly, pinpoint accuracy with this. It's definitely not it definitely has subtle themes in there that doesn't make it preachy at all, and it feels something part of the world that you can relate to, which is just brilliant writing, honestly. I can't think of anything I disagree with other than the score. I think, personally, it's like a 9.2, 9.5, personally. I don't think it's a 10. I do love the interaction with I do love the character interactions. It's one of the highlight of this manga. It has an ever-growing cast, and it gives them a fun highlight. And, some do get left behind, but but they are very enjoyable when they're on the page, when they appear. But yeah, yeah. Okay. Mixed feelings. So this person rated it at 5. It's hard not to leave someone behind, and with how large the cast is. Yeah, exactly. But she does an awesome job. She does an awesome job of trying to include everyone as much as she could. And it doesn't feel fake or forced in. It feels natural, and the interactions are just fun and endearing. Even the very serious characters with the most serious backstories have fun, cute moments as well. There are two types of absurd, but well-told storytelling. You get anime such as Gurren Lagann, Red Line, and where the interest is piqued because of its spectacle and the over-top visuals and characters. You get anything made by Masaki Yuasa, where the presentation is wacky and strange, but underneath the surface there lies a lot of character analysis, social critique, and philosophy that a majority of the audience can find relatable. Wow, that's pretty much just word for word what I just said. Dorohedoro had the potential to be a well thought out mystery containing dark humor and sick action, but unfortunately it built up something so huge that the climax was below underwhelming. Don't get me wrong, I'm fine with the story being absurd and weird, but it was also but it was not very aspiring to be something more grand like the what Masaki Yusa makes. And then there's Gyoza God, whose arc made me go, what the fuck? And then at the end he goes back, it was like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's... You know what Gyoza God is? It's basically Soul Eater's Excalibur. That's what Gyoza God is. And the fact that Excalibur makes a return at the end of Soul Eater is... just... Don't you dare. It is. It is. Excalibur! Alright. But... No, he's not. He's not. But it brings... Okay, so underwhelming. I'm fine with the story being absurd and weird, since it was not very aspiring to be something more grand like Masaki Yuasa makes. He does not suck out everyone's brains up by merely existing. But it brings upon so many subplots and crucial details in the middle of the audience that will begin to lose track and coherence and what is even supposed to matter. There is only one word that can fully describe the plot of Dorohedoro: convoluted. It is a bit convoluted, and I think that's the reason why I will never give it a 10 out of 10. I think that's the biggest drawback over it. I think it has a lot of storylines that's happening at once, and it kind of overcomplicates it for some people. While the setting and premise I do say is quite fascinating, it takes more of a mysterious turn in the middle, and the amount of mysteries keep piling up and leave you lost. The world of humans and sorcerers was interesting, and the history behind some of the past events does make you invested, but it will more depend on what you are looking for. If you don't care too much about the plot and just want to enjoy a silly story of sorcerers and humans murdering the shit out of one another, then don't let my criticism stop you from checking it out. But if you are looking for, at the very least, some sort of sense for the amount of plot points it tries to put together, you are going to be disappointed. I stopped caring about the final third of the series because it was still curious enough to see it all the way through. And yeah, that was my experience, but I don't think I had such a negative fallback from that. But yeah, it seems like volumes 1 to 4 slow, 5 to 13 very interesting, and then the last 8 volumes is I'm lost. It did start off slow. I do remember it being a bit slow on the start. Characters. If I'm completely honest, the story would not have had a huge impact on my distaste for the series had the characters held the story well. For the first half of it, they did, and they were pretty tremendous. Kaiman and Nikaido were very likable characters, and their friendship was very believable. My personal favorites were the villains, En, Shin, and Noi. They were hilarious, and they give the audience a perfect reason to not take Dorohedoro too seriously. When comparing the humans and Kaiman, and En's family and the Cross Eyes, En's family had the most consistent character state, and their relationship expressed their truest characters as best of all on the main groups in the story. Unfortunately, there were things that went wrong that was us at the halfway point. Some crucial characters are not able to fulfill all their potential and move away from the story. I will not spoil, just figure out why yourself. And some characters, the Kaido and Ebisu, while still likable, more in the first half than the second, changed for very annoying reasons, and the plot ruined them when I previously loved them. I do get it. I feel like Nikaido, for me, did take a turn for the worse in the second half. But now Rulin is going to kick my ass because she's a Nikaido stan. And this is why I think Noi is a better character. But anyways. Unfortunately, but listen, mate, there we go. I am mad judging you. just just so you know. I think it's just Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, there were things that went wrong at the halfway point. Some crucial characters are not able to fulfill. We already read that. But also, there isn't much character development. Some characters never needed it because they were great the way they were, and were even fleshed out further into the plot. But I feel like the only characters that changed from the beginning to end are Fujita and Risu. Everybody else either never changes and feels like their character is just being dragged by the complicated plot and not entirely being themselves, and they go through realizations which have minor impact on their final character change. I never understood the desire to be stepped on as a kink until I saw Nikaido turning into a devil. half their form is moi. There's also art. It is different in a good way. It suits the atmosphere and is trying to present. It fits the gritty violence and the overtop designs of the characters. While some of the backgrounds did lack a little too much, lack a little too much detail for me, I'd say the art is the best of the series. She could destroy me and I will thank her for it. Oh my god. Final thoughts. In the beginning, this manga had practically everything to be awesome, but with the poor plot decisions, the story just drags. Honestly, thinking about it now, I had to remind myself, and hearing this person, I can't help but agree, but not to the extent they're thinking. I think I would just only drag the score down to 8.5. You can enjoy the absurd humor and the gritty action, but nothing makes sense. I don't know. It feels like you got too confused and then you just got used to being confused or something. If it was all absurd humor and gritty action, it would come across more consistent than it builds up something so crucial for the overall story just to forget that what to do with it and make an underwhelming conclusion. It's still worth the check out if it really interests you. I give Dorohedoro a not bad but disappointing 5 out of 10. Alright, oh my god. So, I see the word social criticism on it, so I can already tell that it's going to be well-founded opinion. This person gives it a 4 out of 10, which isn't so bad, but as bad as I thought it was going to be. Let me just check the other not recommended stuff. So we have the 4 out of 10, we have a 3, and then we have a 4. Okay, let's go for the first one. Alright, so Dorohedoro is a peculiar manga, with characters that are not only strange in their design, but also in their behavior, with an unusual realism. In this story, there are no true heroes or villains. Everyone is morally ambiguous and acts in their own best interest. Dorohedoro begins with fairly decent world building in its early chapters, backed by great art and a terrifying atmosphere. The introduction of the world of Dorohedoro is decent because everything has a purpose. Nothing seems completely random. The story is told in a linear fashion, although it seems fragmented due to the protagonist's mental disability, his amnesia. Racial conflict is well explored, which makes you wonder, why is there so much hatred between humans and sorcerers? The social criticism in Dorohedoro is brilliant because of its direct connection and to the characters and magical powers, and yet you're rated 4. The more absurd the magical ability, the more wealth and the privilege the sorcerer obtains. The world is described as inhospitable and deeply hierarchical. There is even a specific group called the Cross-Eyes, representing a near poor middle class humans with little magic, led by an anarchist and opposition and opposition ideal that fights against inequality. Meanwhile, humans without magic make up the poorest class, living with scarce resources, while demons are practically established as gods. Neither humans nor sorcerers are truly good or evil. They are equally cruel, trapped in an endless cycle of hatred and karma, and the karma is embodied in the villain, who represents the cruelty, chaos, and inequality of both worlds. And like a natural disaster or a bomb, all it takes is a trigger, the protagonist. It's this is possibly the most well put negative review I have ever seen. Supporting characters are entertaining in the first 60 chapters, funny, eccentric, and with personal reasons for acting violently in such a chaotic world. But my biggest complaint lies with their powers. While some powers serve as metaphors for internal conflicts, trauma, past identity, and many others do not, instead several characters act like walking Doraemons, conjuring solutions out of nowhere. This obscures the perception of the real danger, as another character always appears with the power to fix everything. This leads to repetition, convenient resolutions, and diminishes the weight of the world building. In my opinion, the author shouldn't have created such powerful characters, or at least should have limited their magic to make the danger seem real, especially since the world is supposed to be dangerous and deadly. I actually completely agree with this. I did not think about that. This is like real eye-opener for me. It is a very valid point. And that is true, that this sort of sense of danger you just lose any sense of it. And it's crazy, actually, yeah. The mystery surrounding the protagonist is initially captivating and is gradually revealed. However, the main problem is that it gets lost in the frenetic pace of the manga, which makes the events confusing and aimless. If we analyze the series, the first 60 chapters are solid, a mystery that is slowly revealed, clear objectives, and a steady pace. But as the story progresses, the pace slows down, leading to a terrible ending. And personally, I find the ending terrible. Everything is resolved with the power of friendship. I like that, though. And the protagonist displays an ability that protects him from the plot to defeat the villain. The climax is anticlimactic and leaves the important elements unresolved. For example, the protagonist's face remains the same as at the beginning. I half agree with this part, only because so the part I agree with is that it does take a dip after the first 60 chapters. I'm remembering now, it was much sooner the dip than I thought it was. And it seems that a lot of people say that it's convoluted, and it's true that there are so many side plots with it. I think it does ruin the sense of pacing. Do I think the ending is terrible? No, I think the ending was good. I think the ending pretty much adheres, kept true to the original style throughout the series of this chaotic, silly world. And it was always silly in a weird way. And, these characters just come in, and I feel like, the powers and abilities were true to the characters. I feel like they kind of, yes, they were like, some of them are like walking Doraemons, with a solution in their pocket, so to speak. But that kind of just adds to the fun and silliness of the situation. I don't know. Oh, it's, for me, I see it not as an intense seinen series. I think a lot when people throw around the word seinen, they expect to be some heavy orchestrated dark fantasy thing like Berserk or Monster, but I don't know. I think it's I think it's I think it's a light comedy series in the trappings of a violent, gory action. I think when the type of people, I think it is like those other series. It's just funny about it. Yeah, I think in its heart of hearts, though, it's a comedy. It's a fun comedy, and it's pretty much like these characters in this insane world are having sort of fun, in a weird way, in a weird way, and there's this big, huge, overarching plot that kind of like brings it down, and so on. But yeah, and they kind of lose sense of it, and they kind of like divvy go kind of multiple directions around the middle parts of the series, and it does become a bit. It does get difficult for the readers to keep interest. That's for sure. Do I think it's a 4 out of 10? No. I personally think it's a solid 8 or an 8.5 on a good day. But yeah, I don't know. It's I feel like some of these negative reviews, like, it's well articulated and they do bring up really good points. I think they focus too much on the negatives. It's just funny about a very good manga with a lot of goo, gore, and grime. Grome, great, green. Oh man, we're at 2.5 hours. Jeez. Oh my god. Okay, I didn't think I'd be that quick. I didn't think I'd be that long with the solving. So that brings the end of this series. So just to surmise, Shishunki David Kun, really good, really fun manga. Good, got really strong points. Ultimately, it's a gag manga, and it, it ended too soon. In 35 chapters, as I don't know, it felt like it had something to go on. Sanda is B stars 2.0 in terms of the same storytelling mistakes that we saw previously, in terms of introducing an interesting plot, and then taking a new turn in the story, introducing a final act villain that not many people give a shit about, a bunch of new characters and before you know it, we're already near the ending, and you're thinking, huh? That's Sanda. Bibliomania is a 12-chapter masterpiece, which will linger in your mind. It's not convoluted, but it's it will draw you in. It will draw you in like the art that you see, that it shows you. It's highly visually appealing, and just and the imagery and metaphors are just clearly just absolutely insane. Dorohedoro is just a fun manga. Is fun, I think, in a way. It suffers from being a bit too long. I feel like if they shortened some bits in the middle of the manga, I think it would have been a lot more digestible. Possibly could have cut out a few chapters here and there. Possibly shortened some of the storyline. Some of the side storylines probably would have helped it as well. But overall, fantastic cast of characters, fun world. It's an interesting world to be in. It's just pacing. Pacing is a little bit to be desired. Nothing too bad. Nothing too insane, though, on that front. And that's basically it. Hope you guys enjoyed this month's manga, we are going to be... Hold on, let's see. Going to start the poll later. So I'm just going to move the window so you guys can see the list at the moment. So what we're looking at right now is... So not your typical reincarnation story. So we have Dokes, who is going to be hosting with us next month in January, and his manga recommendation nomination is Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Funny enough, I did read a bit of it back in the day. Doki, yeah. I am nominating Beelzebub. Dream of the Rock is nominating Shibatarian. Did you find out if you could find a place to read your series, Rulene? Not your typical reincarnation story? Okay, that's good. Okay, so... Oh, we'll just keep in the Wizard and the Red Pilgrim. Why not? Foxy wants to cover Diamond is Unbreakable. Feeling like a bitch today, so I'm going to make people skip part 2 and 3. Kusuria... Yeah, it's evil. Kusuria no Hitorori Goto. I think I'll allow it in terms of, like, you could read part... Diamond is Unbreakable and so on, because it is its own story, and it's not completely hinging on the previous parts. What was the name of the manga again? I already forgot. But we'll discuss it in the Discord server anyways. Kusuria. Oh, Apothecary Diaries. Oh shit. I only watched the anime. Shit. That'll be good, actually. Oh, but I'm gonna change the name to Apothecary Diaries for my own sanity. This is pretty much gonna guarantee it gets votes for. Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun. Oh really? Oh, okay. I think you'll quite like this one. And then we got Ichi the Witch, which I think it's got a lot more chapters since its initial nomination like a year ago, earlier this year. So we definitely got something to read. I think we definitely have like 50 or so chapters to read of Ichi the Witch. So there's, it'll be definitely worth looking into that one too. Anyone still watching the stream? If you're watching this live or just catching the tail end of the stream, you can still nominate. The link is on the Discord. So if I were to just change the windows real quick. Where art thou, window selector? Okay. It's one of those days, it seems. Properties, let me just try again on here. There we go. So, yeah. So, basically, just head to Info and Rules. Just scroll up a bit. You'll see the nomination link. It's at the very top of the post. And it will send you to a Google form. Just fill it out. You can only do one manga recommendation a month, but it's sort of a soft rule. Just don't take things too far, and you'll be fine. And then you have and if you want to see the full list, it is where we would just work. It's just a link below on the Discord server, which you get the full list here. And you can see all the things that we recommended before. Okay. That pretty much covers this month. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves, and I hope to see you again next month. Hopefully, I keep saying this every time, but I hope to stream more now, so we'll see how it goes. It's been quite a busy week for me, but I hope to change that later on. Maybe do some game streams. All right. See you then.